The alert shattered Council Administrator Telvin's rest cycle like a blade through glass. Not because it was loud, but because it was red. Across the Galactic Council, only 3 alert patterns existed. Blue for routine updates, amber for developing situations. Red was reserved for events so rare that most administrators completed their entire service without ever seeing one. Telvin's 4 eyes snapped open simultaneously. His secondary hearts accelerated before his conscious mind caught up. He reached for the communicator embedded beside his resting platform. This better justify interrupting a sanctioned rest cycle. Telvon growled. There was no humor in the reply. Administrator, his aide said, voice tight with disbelief. Scout, Vessel Morning Light has transmitted priority data from the Orion Spur. Telvon froze. The Orion Spur. That region had been written off nearly 50,000 cycles ago. Mapped, cataloged, dismissed. Every star logged. Every planet scanned. Every anomaly resolved. It was the kind of space administrators forgot existed. Nothing important ever came from finished regions. What did they find? Telvon asked. There was a pause. Something that shouldn't exist. Telvon swung himself upright and activated the hollow projector. Data flooded the air. At first, it was unremarkable. A standard yellow main sequence star. 8 planets. Asteroid belts. Natural satellites. Telvon felt a flicker of irritation. This did not warrant a red alert. Then his vision locked onto the 3rd planet, and his breath stopped. Atmospheric composition, nitrogen-oxygen dominant. Surface liquid coverage, extensive. Electromagnetic emissions, artificial. Orbital structures, detected. Industrial byproducts, confirmed. Telvon leaned closer, mandibles trembling. Biological signatures, scrolled next. Sapient life present. Population, billions. Technological stage, pre-FTL. Nuclear energy detected. The chamber felt suddenly too small. No, Telvon whispered. The final data packet loaded. Genetic comparison. Matched markers flashed across the display. Once, twice, dozens of times. A match probability so high the system flagged it as impossible. Telvin's voice barely carried. They found it. His aide did not correct him. They found Earth. Within 2 standard hours, the Galactic Council chamber was full. 800 species. 800 perspectives. Every seat occupied. Delegates stood along the walls, on raised platforms, even suspended in gravity-neutral observation fields. The discovery had spread faster than any official announcement ever could. Legends moved faster than data. Council Speaker Morvaith called the session to order. Her elongated form radiated calm, but even she had not fully suppressed the ripple of tension coursing through the chamber. We convene under emergency authority, she announced. Administrator Telvon claims the discovery of a mythological world. Murmurs erupted. Impossible. Earth is a fable. The source world was destroyed. Telvon stepped forward, his limbs stiff. Counselors, he said, activating the central display. This is not speculation. The image appeared. A blue world. Swirling clouds. Vast oceans. Green-brown landmasses alive with weather systems. Silence fell. This planet, Telvon continued, matches ancient cartographic records recovered from 47 colony worlds. He gestured, and the image shifted. Cities glowed on the night side like constellations turned inward, networks of light-traced coastlines and continents. They are inhabited, Telvon said, by humans. The word carried weight. For 50,000 years, humanity had existed only as a historical mystery, an ancient species that had seeded the galaxy with colonies and then vanished. The Council had long assumed extinction. They rebuilt, Telvon said quietly. Without us. Images shifted again. Satellites, space stations, orbital defense arrays, primitive by galactic standards. Terrifying for a species that was never supposed to recover. They developed electricity, computing, artificial intelligence, chemical rockets, and nuclear weapons. The chamber exploded. Nuclear weapons? Unsupervised. Impossible. They possessed thousands, Telvon said. enough to sterilize their world multiple times. A Kazathi delegate rose, scales bristling. Are they a threat? Telvon hesitated. That, he said slowly, is the wrong question. Morvaith raised a limb, demanding silence. Explain. Telvon took a breath. The humans are not aware of us. They have achieved all of this alone, in approximately 100 of their local years since first orbital flight. Gasps rippled through the chamber. 100 years. Most species required a millennium. Administrator, Morvaith said carefully, you are telling us an ancient species thought extinct has reemerged, technologically accelerating at an unprecedented rate, while armed with planet-killing weapons. Yes. And they did this without guidance. Yes. The chamber buzzed with fear now, not disbelief. What do we do? Someone demanded. Quarantine them. Another shouted. Containment protocols. Morvaith remained still. No, she said finally. We gather information. Her gaze turned to the tactical displays. We send a delegation. The words landed like a shockwave. To Earth. Yes, Morvaith said. First contact. Telvin's heart's hammered. You realize what this means, he said. If the legends are true. They are no longer legends, Morvaith replied. They are neighbors. She turned to the chamber. We will not decide humanity's fate based on fear. A pause. Captain Zur will lead the mission. The decision passed, not unanimously, but decisively. As the council adjourned, Telvon remained staring at the image of Earth. Beautiful, alive, dangerous. Somewhere on that blue world, billions of humans live their lives unaware that the galaxy had just rediscovered them, unaware that ancient ghosts had become living people again, unaware that history, long buried, had begun to breathe, and far beyond their skies, the stars watched in silence, because humanity had been found, and the galaxy was no longer ready for what came next. The Galactic Council did not adjourn in peace. They adjourned in fear. Across 800 worlds, emergency assemblies convened within hours. Ancient archives were unlocked. Forbidden records, sealed since the collapse, were decrypted. Civilizations that had not questioned their origins for millennia suddenly found themselves looking backward, toward Earth. The legends of humanity were older than most empires. They spoke of a species born on a blue world orbiting a modest yellow star, a species driven by curiosity so relentless that it refused to remain bound to a single sky. Humans have been explorers, traders, warriors, builders. They had spread across the stars in a wave of expansion that predated the modern Galactic Council itself. And then, they vanished. No war records. No extinction signatures. No final transmissions. Just absence. For 50,000 years, historians argued over the mystery. Some claimed humanity destroyed itself. Others believed a catastrophe had erased them. A few whispered darker theories, that humans had discovered something beyond the galaxy and left it behind entirely. No one had considered the simplest truth. They went home. High Archivist Luros stood alone in the Vault of Origins, surrounded by holographic constellations. The air hummed softly as ancient data cores awakened for the first time in centuries. Begin cross-reference, Luros commanded. The system complied. One by one, worlds lit up across the projection. Proxima Centauri b, Tau Ceti Prime, Epsilon Eridani. 47 inhabited systems, all flagged with the same designation. Human origin colonies. Genetic overlays appeared. Despite tens of thousands of years of divergence, the markers were unmistakable. Bone structure, neural symmetry, biochemical constants. They all trace back to the same source. Earth. Lurotha's tendrils curled involuntarily. So the stories were true, he murmured. Across the galaxy, descendants of ancient humans watched the same data unfold with mixed emotions. Some felt awe, some felt anger. Most felt something far more unsettling. Recognition. On Proxima Colony, Representative Mira stared at the screen in silence. She had grown up hearing myths of the source world, a half-forgotten cradle spoken of in ceremonial language, never in practical terms. a place of origin, not a place that still existed. They survived, she whispered. Her advisor shifted uneasily. Not only survived, they regressed and rebuilt. Mira's eyes hardened. From nothing, she said. That takes a kind of strength you don't teach. Back on the Council's central world, military analysts focus on a different aspect of the data. Earth's weapons. Nuclear arsenals glowed red on tactical projections. Planet crackers by primitive standards. Catastrophic by any standard. They are dangerous, a preservation faction delegate insisted. Unregulated. Fragmented. Emotion-driven. They live under constant internal conflict, another added. Nation-states competing instead of unified governance. Unacceptable, but others were less certain. They had these weapons for nearly a century, one analyst countered, and they didn't use them. That's not restraint, came the reply. That's luck. Moravaith listened to every argument without interruption. Finally, she spoke. Tell me, she asked calmly, how many of your species possess extinction-level weapons during your early expansion? Silence answered her. How many of you survived anyway? No one spoke. The truth was uncomfortable. Every civilization had passed through a dangerous adolescence. Humanity was simply doing it faster. Meanwhile, Earth continued turning beneath its clouds, blissfully unaware of the panic it had triggered. Humans launched satellites, argued on broadcast networks, wrote music, fell in love, planned futures that extended no further than the next generation. They had no idea that distant eyes now studied every transmission, every conflict, every triumph, and every failure. On the bridge of the Harmonious Endeavor, Captain Zur reviewed a mission briefing in silence. Her ship was designed for first contact, sleek, neutral, unarmed beyond basic defenses. Its purpose was diplomacy, not intimidation. She had made contact with 43 species in her career. None like this. An ancient species, her first officer said quietly, that forgot the stars and reinvented them. Zur nodded. They are not children, she replied. They are survivors. Her gaze lingered on Earth's profile. They lost everything, she continued, and instead of mourning forever, they rebuilt. The tactical officer frowned. That kind of resilience often comes with aggression. Yes, Zur agreed, but it also comes with adaptability. She straightened, set course for Sol. As the ship accelerated into slip space, the Council finalized its risk assessments. Containment was discussed. Quarantine proposed. Intervention considered. All were rejected, for one reason. Humanity was already too advanced to isolate quietly. They would notice. And curious species did not respond well to being caged. Deep within restricted archives, one final record surfaced. A fragmented transmission from the last known human-led expedition before their disappearance. The message was incomplete, distorted by time. But one line remained legible. If we fail, if the galaxy forgets us, let Earth remember. Moravaith read the line twice. Then a third time. They didn't abandon the stars, she said softly. They protected them. The realization sent a chill through the chamber. What kind of species chooses to remove itself from galactic affairs, only to give the galaxy time to mature without them? And what kind of species returns from isolation armed with curiosity, compassion, and weapons capable of ending worlds? The Council did not yet know the answer, but as the Harmonious Endeavor closed the distance to Earth, one thing became painfully clear. Humanity was not rejoining the galaxy as a newcomer. They were returning as something far more dangerous, a civilization that had already learned how to fall and how to rise again. Captain Zur had conducted first contact dozens of times. There was always a pattern. New species panicked. Governments argued. Militaries scrambled. Fear always came first. Earth broke the pattern before contact even began. The Harmonious Endeavor exited slip space at the edge of the Sol system, far beyond the outermost planets. Zur expected confusion on the sensors, primitive detection systems, delayed reactions, maybe accidental broadcasts. Instead, the bridge lights shifted instantly. Captain, the tactical officer said slowly, we're being scanned. Zur frowned. Passive sweep? No, he replied. Active. Multi-spectrum. Extremely precise. The ship's displays filled with layered scan data, gravitational mapping, energy profiling, quantum echo analysis. Technology that should not exist. How long since we dropped out of slip space? Zur asked. 3 seconds. Her mandibles tightened. Source. Multiple platforms. The officer said. Orbital. Lunar. Deep space arrays. Earth was not blind. Earth was alert. As the ship advanced cautiously, more signals appeared. Satellites, thousands of them. Not random debris, but organized constellations with overlapping coverage. Navigation, communication, surveillance, defense. They've militarized orbit, the first officer muttered. Not militarized. Zur corrected. Secured. A proximity alarm chimed. New contact, the sensor officer announced. Automated system. It's asking us to identify ourselves. Zur straightened. On what frequency? All of them. Before she could respond, the message arrived. Audio only. Calm. Clear. Confident. Unidentified vessel. This is Earth Orbital Defense Network. You are entering restricted space. Please hold your current vector and state your intentions. The bridge fell silent. No threats. No weapons lock. No panic. Just procedure. Zur took a breath and activated the translator. This is Captain Zur, the Galactic Council ship Harmonious Endeavor, she said. We come in peace to establish first contact with the people of Earth. A pause followed, long enough to feel deliberate. Then the voice returned. Acknowledge Harmonious Endeavor. Please maintain position. Diplomatic channels are being activated. This may take a few minutes. Another pause. Then unexpectedly, if you require assistance with navigation or life support compatibility, please inform us. The channel closed. Zur stared at the display. They offered help, the first officer said quietly. Yes, Zur replied. They did. No species in galactic history had ever done that during first contact. Around them, human ships began to appear on sensors. Small craft, cargo haulers, orbital tugs, patrol vessels. None took aggressive positions. They simply watched. How long had they been spacefaring? Zur asked. The computer answered. First successful orbital launch, approximately 100 Earth years ago. Zur repeated it softly. 100 years. Most species required 1,000. Some needed 10,000. Earth had built an entire orbital infrastructure in a single century. The comm system chimed again. This time, video accompanied the signal. A human face appeared. Female, dark skin, short black hair, eyes focused but warm. She smiled. Captain Zur, hello. My name is Chun Wei. I'm an ambassador representing Earth. Zur inclined her head respectfully. Ambassador Chun, thank you for responding. Chun nodded. Apologies for the delay. Coordinating first contact across multiple governments takes creativity. Zur blinked. Multiple governments? Chun laughed softly. Yes, we're not unified. Yet. That alone was staggering. Before Zur could respond, Chun continued. We'd like to invite you aboard one of our stations for a proper meeting. We prepared several environments, atmosphere, gravity, temperature. We weren't sure what you'd need. Zur felt something unfamiliar. Disorientation. You prepared facilities already? Zur asked. Chin smiled wider. We've been tracking your approach for 2 days. 2 days. Earth had seen them coming long before arrival. And, Chin added, we made food. We don't know what you eat, so we made a lot of options. Zur glanced at her crew. They were as stunned as she felt. That is thoughtful, Zur said carefully. We accept. Coordinates transmitted instantly. As the Harmonious Endeavor approached the station, Zur studied it closely. It wasn't military. It wasn't governmental. According to the identification beacon, it belonged to a corporation. Private ownership of orbital infrastructure. Another impossibility. Docking was smooth. Human technicians guided them with calm efficiency. When the airlock opened, a group of humans waited on the other side. No weapons, no armored guards, just people, smiling, excited. One young human was practically vibrating with anticipation. "Welcome," Chen said warmly. "Welcome to Earth's neighborhood." Zer stepped through first. She stood nearly twice Chen's height, her arms folded respectfully. Yet the humans showed no fear, only curiosity. Inside, the station was immaculate, clearly designed with adaptability in mind. Different gravity zones, atmospheric chambers marked clearly, furniture of varied shapes and sizes, tables covered in food, synthetic, plant-based, nutritional compounds. "Our best guess," Chen admitted. "Please scan everything first." Zer's science officer did so. His eyes widened. "It's safe," he said. "For most of us." They accounted for biochemical variants. Zer stared. "They analyzed alien biology without ever meeting us." Chen shrugged lightly. "We imagine a lot." As the reception began, interactions unfolded across the chamber. Scientists exchanged theories. Engineers compared systems. Medical officers discussed anatomy. Humans asked questions. Endless questions. At one table, Commander Throck of the Kazathi, feared across the galaxy, stood rigidly, observing. Then something happened. A small human child approached him. She looked up at the towering, armored alien. "Are you a dragon?" she asked. Throck froze. "I do not know this word," he rumbled. "They're in stories," the child explained cheerfully. "They're strong. Like you." She reached out hesitantly. "Can I touch your scales?" A human adult rushed forward, mortified. "I'm so sorry." Throck raised a massive claw. "It is acceptable," he said softly. The child touched the scales. She smiled. "They're warm." Something shifted behind Throck's eyes. Across the room, Zer watched and understood these humans were not fearless. They simply chose connection over caution. Chen returned, offering Zer a warm drink. "Tea," she explained. "Mild, probably safe." Zer tasted it. Pleasant. As conversations flowed and laughter echoed through the station, Zer felt a truth settling heavily in her mind. Earth had not greeted the galaxy as a lost child. Earth had greeted it as a host. And hosts, Zer realized, were far more dangerous than conquerors, because hosts did not ask permission to belong. They simply welcomed you in. Captain Zer had expected many things from first contact: curiosity, awkwardness, cultural missteps. She had not expected warmth. The reception hall aboard the human station was alive in a way Zer had never experienced during diplomatic encounters. There was noise, but not chaos. Laughter, but not mockery. Conversations overlapped, voices rising and falling with emotion rather than restraint. Humans did not speak like diplomats. They spoke like people. Zer moved slowly through the chamber, her multiple eyes taking in every detail. Humans clustered naturally into small groups, then drifted apart and reformed without structure. They touched each other casually, hands on shoulders, light contact that would have been unthinkable among most species. Yet there was no aggression in it, only familiarity. "Captain Zer," Ambassador Chen said, appearing at her side, "please forgive us if we're overwhelming." Zer inclined her head. "You are energetic." Chen laughed. "That's one word for it." At a nearby table, a human engineer animatedly explained orbital traffic management to a Trinali mathematician, sketching diagrams on a transparent surface. The Trinali listened intently, occasionally interrupting to ask sharp, precise questions. The human welcomed every interruption. No offense, no hierarchy, just exchange. "This is not how first contact normally proceeds," Zer said carefully. Chen smiled. "How does it normally go?" "Cautiously," Zer replied. "With distance." Chun considered that. "We're not very good at distance," she admitted. "We spent a long time alone." That sentence lingered. Zer turned her gaze toward the observation window. Earth hung below them, blue, vibrant, alive, alone, for 50,000 years. As the reception continued, Zer noticed something unsettling. The humans were not acting. They were not performing diplomacy. They were simply being themselves. A group of human scientists crowded around Zur's medical officer, fascinated by his physiology. They asked questions rapidly, sometimes interrupting one another, occasionally disagreeing mid-sentence. But every disagreement ended the same way, with curiosity. Why does that organ glow? One asked. Does it hurt? Another followed. Is it always that color? The medical officer answered as best he could, initially stiff, then gradually relaxing. By the end of the exchange, he was laughing, a sound rarely heard from his species. Across the room, Commander Throck stood again with the human child from earlier. She was drawing shapes on a digital pad, occasionally holding it up for Throck to see. This is you, she said proudly, pointing to a crude, spiked figure. Throck studied it carefully. I am fearsome, he asked. The child frowned. No, you're big. A pause. And nice. Throck felt something shift again, deeper this time. He had commanded fleets. He had ordered planetary bombardments. Entire species had surrendered at the sight of his kind. And yet, this small human had reduced him to something simpler. Someone. Zur approached him quietly. Commander, she said, you appear conflicted. Throck did not take his eyes off the child. These humans are dangerous, he said. Zur stiffened. In what way? They do not fear, Throck continued, but not because they are foolish. The child tugged gently at his armored limb. Can you come visit my school someday? She asked. My friends would love you. Throck lowered himself slowly to her level. If I am allowed, he said, voice unexpectedly gentle. She beamed. Zur watched the exchange with growing unease. Fearless species were predictable. This was something else. Later, as refreshments were shared, Zur found herself seated beside Chin again. You prepared all of this in 2 days, Zur said. Food, atmospheres, translation protocols. Chin nodded. We crowdsourced ideas. Zur blinked. You what? We asked people, Chin said simply. Scientists, doctors, engineers, teachers, even kids. Children? Zur asked. They asked good questions, Chin replied. Zur believed it. How did your governments agree so quickly? She asked. Chin smiled ruefully. They didn't. Not at first. Zur tilted her head. But when our defense systems confirmed you weren't hostile, Chin continued, something interesting happened. What? Everyone wanted to be ready, Chin said. Not to fight you, to meet you. Zur processed that slowly. In every other first contact, preparation meant defense. Here, preparation meant hospitality. A human musician began playing an instrument nearby, strings and keys producing layered, emotional sounds. Others joined in, adding rhythm by clapping, tapping surfaces, even improvising with alien sound devices. Music spread through the hall. Some aliens recoiled instinctively. Others leaned in. Is this planned? Zur asked. Chin laughed. No, this just happens. Several humans began moving in response to the music. Dancing. Zur stared. You dance during diplomatic engagements? She asked. During most things, Chin said. Weddings, funerals, protests, bad days, good days. Why? Chun considered. Because it reminds us we're alive. That answer unsettled Zur more than any weapon system. Later, in a quiet alcove, Zur conferred with her first officer. This is not what we prepared for, he admitted. No, Zur agreed. They are emotionally aggressive. He hesitated. Captain, if these people ever decide someone is their enemy, Zur finished the thought silently. Humans did not build walls between themselves and others. They built bonds, and bonds, once formed, would offend it with terrifying intensity. At the end of the reception, Chin approached Zur one final time. I should warn you, she said gently. Once the public announcement is made, things will get louder. Zur inclined her head. We anticipated that. Chin smiled. You didn't anticipate us. No, Zur admitted. We did not. Chin extended her hand again. Thank you for coming, she said. Whatever happens next, we're glad you found us. Zer took the offered hand. Warm, steady, human. As the harmonious Endeavor undocked hours later, Zer stood on the bridge watching the station recede. Behind her, Commander Throck remained silent, staring at a small drawing held carefully in his massive claw. What troubles you? Zer asked. Throck answered, without looking up. I have fought for centuries, he said. And today, for the first time, I fear who I might become if someone threatens them. Zer closed her eyes. That was the truth. Humanity was not dangerous because of its weapons. Humanity was dangerous because it made you care. And once you cared, you would burn the galaxy to protect them. The moment the harmonious Endeavor transmitted its report, the galaxy fractured. Every word, every image, every human smile, every unguarded laugh, every impossible detail, broadcast everywhere. Across 800 worlds, governments suspended routine operations. Markets froze. Military commands elevated threat levels. Religious councils reopened ancient prophecies long dismissed as metaphor. Humanity was no longer a rumor. Humanity was a fact, and facts demanded decisions. The Galactic Council chamber had not been this divided in 10,000 years. Speaker Morve stood at the center of the storm, listening as representatives spoke over one another in 100 languages, translation systems straining to keep pace. They are emotionally unstable. They possess weapons of mass extinction. They violated half our expectations without realizing it. They offered food to strangers. They let a child approach a war commander. That alone proves they are reckless. No, it proves they are confident. Morvaith raised her limbs slowly. Silence followed, reluctantly. We are not here to debate whether humans are strange, she said. We are here to decide whether they are a threat or an opportunity. Representative Colon of the Preservation faction rose immediately. Tall, thin, immaculately controlled. The answer is obvious, Colon said coldly. Humanity is dangerous. They have nuclear weapons, artificial intelligence without central oversight, genetic modification of their own species, fragmented governance, constant internal conflict. Images flared above the chamber. Human wars, explosions, environmental damage. They are not ready. A murmur of agreement rippled outward. Colon continued. Galactic law is clear. Species that maintain extinction-level weaponry without council regulation are barred from integration. Humanity violates this law openly. He paused. We must quarantine Earth. The word struck like a weapon. Quarantine meant isolation, surveillance, containment. Some called it mercy. Others called it a slow death. Representative Mira of the Proxima Colony stood. Her form was human, altered by generations of adaptation, but unmistakable. You speak of law, Mira said calmly, but you forget history. She gestured, and new images replaced the old. Ancient wars, early council members wielding forbidden weapons, civilizations on the brink. Every species in this chamber passed through a phase like Earth's, Mira said. You were given time to grow, to learn, to make mistakes. She turned toward Colon. Why deny humans the same chance? They developed too fast. Colon snapped. In 1 century, they built what took us 1,000 years. Yes, Mira agreed. That is exactly why you are afraid. A ripple of discomfort moved through the chamber. Morvaith leaned forward. Captain Zer, she said, your assessment. Zer stepped into the light. Her voice was steady. Humans are chaotic, she said. They violate protocol instinctively. They argue openly. They feel deeply. Several representatives nodded. But, Zer continued, they also cooperate faster than any species I've encountered. They adapt without waiting for permission. They prepare not for war, but for connection. She hesitated. They did not ask us what they were allowed to do. They asked what we needed. That unsettled many more than weapons ever could. A military delegate rose. They are manipulators, he warned. They disarm with kindness. Commander Throck stood before Zer could respond. The chamber fell silent. When a Kazati spoke, history listened. I am a warrior, Throck rumbled. I judge threat by instinct, not theory. He activated a display. Footage from the station. The child, her hand on his scales. I have fought for 3 centuries, Throck said. I have never hesitated in battle, never questioned an order. He looked directly at Kalan. But if someone threatened that child, I would not stop. The chamber shifted. That, Throck continued, is why humans are dangerous. Gasp spread. They do not dominate through fear, he said. They bind through connection. Once you are bound to them, you will burn worlds to protect them. A long pause. And yet, Throck added quietly, they have chosen not to. Silence deepened. They possess weapons capable of ending themselves, he said. And they have lived with that power for generations without using it. He turned toward the assembly. That is not weakness. That is restraint. The debate raged for hours. Quarantine advocates warned of chaos. Integration supporters spoke of renewal. Analysts projected futures, some glorious, some catastrophic. Then something unexpected happened. Human broadcasts began appearing on council networks. Music, art, stories, documentaries. Not propaganda. Just humanity. Alien populations consumed it obsessively. Human films about hope and loss. Music layered with raw emotion. News broadcasts showing failures alongside triumphs. They expose their weaknesses openly, Colon sneered. They trust us with their truth, Mira countered. Across the galaxy, something shifted. People laughed at human comedies, cried at human tragedies, argued over human philosophies. They began to see humans not as a problem, but as people. Morvaith convened the final session. The question before us, she said, is not whether humanity is dangerous. She paused. All civilizations are dangerous. The chamber stilled. The question, she continued, is whether we want to face that danger as partners or create an enemy we cannot control. A preliminary vote was called, not for membership. Not yet, only for one decision. Observation or engagement. The results appeared slowly. Engagement, 412. Containment, 388. A narrow margin, but enough. Morvaith exhaled. Humanity will not be quarantined, she announced. They will be tested. The trial of worthiness was invoked, an ancient process few species had faced in living memory. 3 challenges: diplomacy, innovation, crisis. Most civilizations require decades. Morvaith's gaze hardened. Humanity, she said softly, will be given a chance to prove who they are. Far away on Earth, Ambassador Chen looked up at the stars, unaware that the galaxy had just placed humanity on trial. And even farther away, some beings wonder whether the galaxy had made its most dangerous mistake yet. The trial of worthiness was not designed to be passed. It was designed to reveal. For 10,000 years, the Galactic Council had used it to measure whether a species truly belonged among the stars. Most failed, not because they were weak, but because they were cautious. The trial rewarded restraint, patience, and obedience to established order. Humanity brought none of those things. Trial 1, diplomacy. The simulation chamber sealed, and reality dissolved into holographic precision. 3 alien powers. 1 resource-rich star system. Competing historical claims. Rising tensions. Standard scenario. The human diplomatic team entered without ceremony. 12 representatives from different nations, cultures, and ideologies. They did not wear matching uniforms. They did not agree on seating arrangements. They began arguing before the simulation even started. Council observers exchanged looks of concern. This is a disaster. One murmured. The simulation began. The alien delegates made demands. The humans interrupted. They contradicted one another openly. A diplomat from Brazil laughed at an unreasonable claim. A representative from India leaned forward and said bluntly, "That won't work. Let's talk about what you actually need." Observers recoiled. Protocol violation after protocol violation. But then something strange happened. Progress. While the aliens postured, the humans dissected motives. They ignored ceremonial language and went straight to resources, survival, and incentives. You want minerals. You need fuel. You're afraid of losing face. Within hours, the humans proposed something radical. No ownership, shared governance, distributed resource access. Change the rules, one human said casually. Rules are tools, not laws of nature. The simulation stalled, then accepted. All three alien factions agreed. The observers stared in disbelief. They broke every diplomatic protocol. One protested. Captains replied calmly, and yet they achieved peace. No verdict was announced. The trial moved on. Trial 2, innovation. The device was ancient, a metallic sphere, smooth and silent, emitting faint energy signatures that defied modern theory. No documentation. No clues. Most species took years. Humans were given 1 week. They responded by doing the unthinkable. They split up, for competing teams formed instantly, arguing, theorizing, disagreeing. One group insisted it was a power source. Another believed it was a weapon. A third suspected a communication device. The fourth joked that it might be a toy. The observers were horrified. This is chaos, one whispered. It's competition, Zer corrected. For days, nothing coherent emerged. Then breakthrough, electromagnetic resonance. The discovery spread not through official channels, but by accident, a casual conversation, a shared meal, a moment of guilt. Suddenly, competition collapsed into collaboration. Data flowed freely. Arguments sharpened ideas instead of stalling them. By day 5, the humans had done the impossible. They identified the device as a quantum teaching interface, a learning tool for children of a long-dead civilization. They didn't stop there. They built replicas, improved the design, wrote full theoretical explanations. The observers checked the results again. And again, they solved it, one said quietly. Not just solved it, another replied. They mastered it. Still no verdict. The final trial began. Trial 3, crisis response. The scenario loaded. A colony ship, 5,000 beings. Engine failure. Collision with a star. Rescue capacity, 3,000. The rest were meant to die. The trial was designed to force a sacrifice. The humans studied the scenario for 15 minutes. Then Admiral Chun Patel spoke. We're not choosing who dies. Observers leaned forward. The premise is flawed, the Admiral continued. We're saving everyone. That is impossible, the simulation informed them. Then the simulation is wrong, Patel replied calmly. What followed was 12 hours of controlled insanity. Humans tore apart their own rescue vessel, stripping non-essential systems, converting cargo bays into life support zones, exceeding safety limits by obscene margins. They violated regulations openly. Observers shouted protests. The humans ignored them. They broadcast distress calls on all frequencies. Civilian ships responded. Cargo haulers, private yachts. Humans commandeered them without hesitation. Then came the moment that broke the room. We're going to push the colony ship, an engineer announced. Using what? An observer demanded. Everything. Multiple vessels latched on. Engines fired in perfect synchronization. The math should not have worked. It did. The trajectory shifted. Time was bought. Evacuation accelerated. People were packed into spaces never meant to hold life. Safety systems screamed. Observers watched in horror. And then, silence. All 5,000 colonists survived. The simulation ended. No alarms. No deaths. The humans stood there, exhausted, waiting. An observer finally spoke. You violated every rule. Yes, Admiral Patel agreed. You endangered multiple ships. Yes. You risked total failure. Yes. A pause. But everyone lived. Patel nodded. That was the goal. The room was silent. The trial of worthiness had never accounted for a species that refused to accept its limits. Captain Zer submitted the report to the council. 3 trials. No clear pass or fail. Just results. Across the galaxy. Beings watched the recordings. They saw humans argue, break rules, improvise, and succeed. They saw a species that treated impossibility as a suggestion. And for the first time in 10,000 years, the Council realized something terrifying. The trial had not tested humanity. Humanity had tested the trial. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so silent. 800 species. Billions of lives represented. Not a single voice spoke. The recordings from the trial of worthiness had finished playing moments ago. The last image, 5,000 survivors stepping off damaged vessels, alive, still hovered faintly in the air before dissolving into nothing. Speaker Morvaith remained seated, her hands folded, her expression unreadable. For the first time in her 300 years as speaker, she did not know what word should come next. Representative Colon of the Preservation faction stood slowly. He looked tired. The humans completed the trials, he said. That much is undeniable. A murmur spread. But completion is not the same as passing, he continued. They violated protocol. They ignored safety regulations. They broke rules that had preserved galactic stability for millennia. He paused, then said something no one expected. And yet, they succeeded where the trials were designed for failure. Eyes turned toward him. Colon exhaled. The trial of worthiness assumes that loss is inevitable, that civilization requires sacrifice, that some must be left behind. He looked around the chamber. The humans rejected that assumption. Representative Mira rose next. Her voice was steady, but emotion sat just beneath it. My people left Earth 40,000 years ago, she said. We built new homes, new cultures, new identities. She turned toward the Earth delegation seated in the gallery. And yet, watching these trials, I recognize them. Recognition rippled through the human-descended colonies listening across the stars. They argue, Mira said. They compete. They break rules. A faint smile touched her lips. And then, when it matters most, they come together. She raised her hand. They did not ask who deserved to live. They asked how to save everyone. Commander Throck stood. When the Kazathi warrior spoke, even the chamber system seemed to listen more carefully. I have spent 3 centuries as a soldier, he rumbled. I believe strength came from dominance. He activated a single image, the human child, her hand resting on his armored scales. Humans do not conquer by force, Throck said. They conquer by belonging. A hush fell. They make you care, he continued. And once you care, you will do anything to protect them. He turned toward Colon. You fear their chaos. I fear a galaxy that never changes. The chamber felt suddenly very small. Speaker Morvaith rose. The vote will now be called, she announced. No speeches. No ceremony. Just a decision. Should Earth be granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council, with full rights and responsibilities? Votes were cast in silence. Seconds stretched. Then the results appeared. In favor, 489. Against, 276. Abstained, 35. For a moment, no one reacted. Then the chamber erupted. Some representatives cheered. Others sat stunned. A few turned away in quiet dissent. But the decision was final. Earth was no longer alone. Ambassador Chin stood slowly, her hands trembling. Around her, members of the Earth delegation embraced. Scientists, diplomats, soldiers, civilians. Different nations, different languages. One species. We did it, someone whispered. Chin looked up at the chamber. At beings who had once debated quarantining her world. At beings who now had to accept humanity as equals. She felt something tighten in her chest. Not pride, responsibility. The changes began immediately. Human engineers collaborated with alien physicists, combining precision with reckless creativity. Technologies that had stagnated for centuries leapt forward in months. Human doctors worked with alien biologists, discovering treatments no species could have developed alone. Human artists collaborated with beings who saw sound as color, movement as mathematics. New forms of expression spread across the galaxy. And everywhere, something unexpected followed. Connection. Humans shared everything. Music, stories, failures, Hope. They did not curate perfection. They showed truth. Alien worlds began hosting human exchange programs. Human children visited alien cities. Alien children visited Earth. They became friends before they learned fear. 5 years after admission, Speaker Morvaith attended a celebration on Earth. The event was held in an open space designed for dozens of environments. Gravity zones shifted seamlessly. Atmospheres blended carefully. Humans and aliens mingled freely, laughed, argued. A human band played music beside an alien harmonic choir. Morvaith stood quietly, observing. Captain Zur joined her. "Do you regret the decision?" Zur asked. Morvaith considered. "I thought we were allowing humanity to join our civilization," she said slowly. She gestured to the scene before them. "I did not realize they would remind us how to be one." As if summoned by her words, a small human child approached. She held a flower, a simple thing. "Are you the speaker?" the child asked. "I am," Morvaith replied, kneeling carefully. "My teacher said you helped us join the galaxy," the child said. She held out the flower. "Thank you." Morvaith accepted it with trembling hands. The child ran off, laughing, toward a group of friends, human and alien alike. Morvaith stood. "They do this without thinking," she said softly. "No calculation. No protocol." Zur nodded. "It's instinct." 10 years later, the Council commissioned a study on humanity's impact. The conclusion was brief. Humanity did not destabilize galactic civilization. They revitalized it. Economic growth surged. Cultural exchange exploded. Reported life satisfaction increased across multiple species. Commander Throck wrote a book. Its final line became required reading in military academies across the galaxy. Strength without compassion is violence. Compassion without strength is helplessness. Humans taught us how to hold both. 20 years after first contact, Ambassador Chen retired. At her farewell address, she stood before representatives of 800 species. "We are not perfect," she said. "We never will be." She smiled. "But we care. Deeply, loudly, recklessly." She looked up. "We looked at the stars for thousands of years, hoping someone was out there. And when you arrived, we welcomed you." Her voice softened. "Thank you for welcoming us back." As the ceremony ended, voices rose together. A song, once human, now galactic, and across the stars, beings listened and understood something profound. The galaxy had searched for Earth for 50,000 years. But in the end, Earth found the galaxy exactly when it was needed, and humanity did not conquer the stars. They made them feel like home.